In a world where the dead never stop coming and the living are pushed to their limits, every moment becomes a battle to stay alive. Heroes rise, humanity falls, and survival is the only law that remains. This is where every zombie story begins. Welcome to the ultimate zombie recap season. Junwoo was at home deep into a League of Legends match when his teammates suddenly warned that something massive was happening outside, prompting him to pull off his headset and walk into the living room just as a national disaster alert struck his phone and shrill screams erupted from the street. Confused, he stepped closer to the window and saw pure chaos. Neighbors sprinting for their lives, a fire engine spinning out of control, panic engulfing the entire district. And then, frozen in shock, he witnessed a mother approaching her daughter with a kitchen knife, only for the daughter, eyes wild, to lunge at her like a rabid animal. And before he could process any of it, terrifying screams erupted from just outside his door. He peered through the peephole and saw nothing but an empty hallway, yet curiosity made him crack the door open, and instantly his next-door neighbor shoved inside, claiming his roommate had gone insane and begging for refuge. But Junwoo demanded he leave until the man pleaded to use the bathroom, and Junwoo reluctantly agreed. On the TV, a breaking report declared that all of South Korea had fallen to a zombie virus spread through bites and scratches. So Junwoo seized a kitchen knife as the neighbor emerged, insisting he was fine, even as his eyes reddened and his body convulsed, transforming within seconds into a snarling zombie that lunged at him, forcing Junwoo to push him back out and slam the door before barricading it with the refrigerator. As he reached to call his family, a final text arrived from his parents saying they couldn't return home, but begging him to survive, leaving him completely on his own, rationing what little food he had. Early the next morning, he used his drone to scout outside and saw that every floor and every apartment had been overrun by the infected. That night, gunshots jolted him awake, and he crawled to the window to see a female police officer fighting desperately before zombies overwhelmed her and tore her apart. And before he could look away, violent pounding shook his own door as a zombie broke into the apartment, forcing Junwoo to brace the refrigerator with his body, even though it began to slide. And in a burst of instinct, he sprinted to the balcony, vaulted over the railing, and at the last instant, dodged the zombie's leap, sending it plummeting to the ground, surviving the attack but losing all his food when the refrigerator was destroyed. To avoid drawing attention, he sealed the windows with whatever he could find. But isolation, hunger, and fear pressed down harder each day until after 15 brutal days, he began hallucinating, imagining his parents returning home alive before reality snapped back, and he collapsed, sobbing in despair. Until suddenly, a faint voice message from his parents broke through the silence, offering a flicker of hope, though the signal in the apartment was far too weak for him to hear the full message. Junwoo leaned out over the balcony railing, risking everything just to extend his phone far enough to catch a faint signal, and when it finally connected, he received the last message from his parents, confirming something terrible had happened to them, shattering what remained of his will to survive until grief hollowed him out and he decided to end his own life. He kicked the chair away, but at the final instant, a sharp red laser beam cut across his face, and he realized someone in the opposite building was signaling him to stop, sparking him to fight frantically against the rope and free himself, before discovering the source was a beautiful girl named Yubin, who told him they could talk again at 7 a.m., though when he woke it was already 11. But she had been watching him and noticed he was starving and attempted to send him food by tying a rope to a baseball and hurling it, only for it to fall short onto the rain canopy below, until Junwoo used his drone to deliver the rope to her, and together they set up a ropeway so she could send him precious rations. Just as he began eating, he sensed danger as a firefighter turned zombie crawled into view, clutching the rope like it was still on duty, and with one powerful tug, it tripped Yubin, knocking her unconscious before dragging itself toward her balcony. And though Junwoo wanted to stop it, he was too far away, so he used his drone again to harass and distract the creature until it finally knocked the drone out of the air and advanced toward her window. But right as it climbed the railing, Yubin snapped awake and smashed it with a single blow, sending it crashing to the ground, and Junwoo's heart finally eased, seeing she was safe. With the food she gave him almost gone, he realized hunger would kill him before zombies did, unless he ventured out, so he armed himself and cautiously opened his door, finding the hallway empty and spotting his neighbor's body, retrieving the keys and entering the apartment where a corpse lay on the bed, unmoving even after he threw a shoe, giving him confidence to search thoroughly until he gagged at the stench from the refrigerator, but found a jar of peanut butter and a sealed box of biscuits, and noticed the neighbor had mountaineering gear, which meant he might find something useful, eventually uncovering 2 walkie-talkies just as a zombie lunged from behind, forcing him to shove it away and sprint for his life out of the apartment, clutching the supplies he had risked everything for. Since he had nearly died bringing them back, he felt it only right to share the bounty with Yubin, and he sent her food along with the walkie-talkie, and at last the two of them were able to speak freely across the ruins of their fallen world. They talked for a long time, savoring the sound of another human voice after days of silence. But happiness never lasts in a world like this. and soon the horde outside grew restless for reasons neither of them could understand, forcing both of them to lie flat on the floor, barely daring to breathe, until Yubin accidentally made a small noise, and the zombies immediately closed in, prompting Junwoo to think fast as he asked for her room number and used his shut-in genius to remotely connect to the phone in the unit next door, successfully luring the horde away. After this close call, neither of them wanted to keep waiting for death, so when Yubin observed through her binoculars that the 8th floor above Junwoo was clear, they agreed to head there, and once prepared she, with her rock-climbing expertise, executed a fluid spinning jump and landed on the ground surrounded by zombies, swiftly freeing her rope and sprinting toward the building while slicing past the undead with agile footwork and sharp knife strikes. But their numbers overwhelmed her path, and she was knocked down, spotting a gun on the floor as another zombie leapt onto her, only for Junwoo to charge in at the perfect moment and help her escape as they sprinted through the swarm toward the entrance, slamming the glass doors shut to hold the horde at bay before rushing into the elevator and heading straight for the 8th floor, believing they were finally safe. Until Yubin turned and saw another flood of zombies storming toward them. Junwoo fought ferociously, while Yubin was suddenly pulled into a room by someone who tossed a smoke bomb to drive the zombies back, revealing a masked man who offered them food and water. But though starving, they refused to touch it until the man ate first, after which they devoured the meal as he assured them that there was plenty more and that a rescue team was approaching. News so unbelievable they hardly dared trust it until the man played a broadcast confirming rescue operations were underway, filling them with hope, until disaster struck. Yubin sensed danger too late as Junwoo collapsed and she lost consciousness, realizing the food had been drugged and that the man didn't even live there as he tied them up and dragged Yubin into a room where a restrained zombie lurked, the other end of the rope held by the man who explained this was his wife, whom he still adored despite her transformation, and he had no hesitation feeding her with living victims as he loosened the rope and sent the snarling creature toward Yubin, filling the room with screams until Junwoo stirred awake and threatened the man with his gun to open the door. But the deranged husband simply released the rope entirely, causing Junwoo to grab it in desperation, but fail as the screaming suddenly stopped, and when the man opened the door to check, he was immediately mauled by his undead wife, a grim reunion for the twisted couple. The gunshot sounds attracted every zombie in the neighborhood, and they flooded the building, leaving Junwoo and Yubin convinced they were doomed, deciding they would die by their own hands before being torn apart. But as Junwoo raised the gun, a helicopter roared overhead and sunlight flashed on its rotors, revealing a real rescue team approaching the rooftop, their one remaining chance at survival. So Junwoo threw out boxes of cigarettes as bait, while Yubin pushed a baby stroller to clear a path, and together they sprinted toward the rooftop with the horde closing in. And when Yubin was grabbed, Junwoo smashed the zombie away with a bicycle and urged her to run ahead. Though when she reached the rooftop, the helicopter was nowhere to be seen. Junwoo fought through more zombies and joined her, both now cornered with empty guns and no escape as the undead broke through their last defense. Until suddenly, the roar of a helicopter filled the air again as it rose behind them, unleashing heavy fire and mowing down the advancing zombies, allowing the rescue team to reach them and pull them aboard, finally lifting them out of the nightmare. Breathless and trembling yet alive, they looked at each other and smiled, knowing they had survived because they refused to give up. And elsewhere throughout the ruined city, countless other survivors clung to life too, waiting for their turn to be saved. Proof that as long as one keeps fighting, hope never truly dies. Up next, things get even crazier. The zombies hit harder, the escapes get tighter, and the twist is even more insane. And trust me, if this story shocked you, the next one will absolutely blow your mind. It is already on the channel, so go check it out right now.